So I'm compelled to do this and it's because I'm just kind of tired of just kind of watching the videos from the guy Middle Nation. I I get tired cuz see a lot of people can be fooled because they don't know history. So if you don't know world history, I would say going back at least 2000 or more years, you'll be fooled. You'll be fooled by those that make claims about who did this and who did this. Because basically, you know what? One of the things that the guy from Middle Nation, let me get his name. Um, what this guy does is he plays the Arabians versus the Europeans game. And that game is not like the Arabians were uh angels and the Europeans were lesser angels or evil. They both were evil. The Arabians actually, I would even say, his name is Shahid Bosen, the guy from Middle Nation. And you know, and it the thing is that one would even argue that the Arabians are probably more barbaric than the Europeans, and for longer times. See, this is the thing because one, I'm very much a scholar of history. That's one of the reasons why I am very highly intelligent is because I researched that I researched history like crazy. I've been researching history for over 30 years. Since I was a little boy, I was researching history. I was reading encyclopedias, my mother's encyclopedias, just, randomly finding information out. Because, one of the things as a Virgo, a lot of times, a lot of Virgos overthink and they need to research and find facts real quick. And, that's, the thing that I went to, before the computers, this is like the early 80s. You go to the encyclopedia and you look up some information. And from doing such, from going to the age of the internet where it's a much easier process to get information. I mean, I know a lot about the Arabian conquest in Africa. Basically the Arabians came out of Eurasia. Okay, they came out of Eurasia in basically before the era Christ era. About I want to say, let me see here when the actual Arabians uh conquested, because basically the Arabians took over the Axum Empire, the Ethiopians. That they didn't the way that the guy from a Middle Nation basically tries to talk about the Europeans and their history. He says it he's because basically I watched a recent video of him. Basically, he was basically cooking Jordan Peterson, because Jordan Peterson, in a in a lot of the narrative that they're pushing with the immigrants in the in Europe, is that these Arabians are rapists, and they're basically doing barbaric sexual acts inside Europe. And they're basically isolated cases where they're trying to blame these immigrants, which so happen to be people from Muslim countries, for the basically rape incidents in Europe, when most of the rape incidents in Europe are from actual Europeans. Okay, so yeah, the Arabians basically conquested and came from basically northern, or actually parts of Eurasia, the Eurasian steppe, and they came down into what was basically the Axum Empire. So this was like basically 100 uh BCE, basically like almost 1,000 years before Christ. So once they came into basically the Sinai Peninsula, Egypt, they just took over the original inhabitants, which were actually black people, Eastern Africans. They took over Saudi Arabia. They took over all of that area from the Africans. They're still there to this day. But what I don't like about this dude is that if you're a person that doesn't know history, because Arabian history is a lot older than European history, in the sense of the modern Europeans that, basically the Anglo-Saxons and whatnot, you wouldn't know what they did and what they, basically conquered and took over. And you'll think, okay, they, basically they inhabited Saudi Arabia. They inhabited the Emirates and all these different places that they name, that they took over from the Axum Empire. You wouldn't know that because the history is a lot older than the current European history. It dates far back. So if you don't know history, like that's why I named the title History 103, which is advanced history. You don't know advanced history, you're not going to know the Arabian history. You would know that. The any average Arabian knows, that's why, they smile in your face and in the hood with their corner stores, knowing good and well that they're basically inside, they're the original invaders of Africa. They invaded Africa well before the Europeans. The Europeans learned from the Arabs on how to conquest, how to enslave. They learned from the Arabians because the Arabians have done it thousands of years inside Africa, inside even Europe, and taught the Africans and basically uh, hoarded Africa and basically made everyone under the sword become Muslims. And then they went into, Europe, and then they enslaved the Europeans. I mean, basically, they wrote the book on it. Okay, they basically took over all of the northern part of Africa. That's why you get the whole the whole Egypt thing is a situation where they believe that they're the ancient Egyptians. All of they're very similar to the Europeans as far as they're wanting to whitewash history, claim historical facts, historical lands that are not theirs, historical history that is not theirs, because basically they were the last victors. Okay, I'll give them that. I'll give the Europeans that. The Europeans were the last victors. The Arabians were the last victors. But you ain't gonna, put that past me as far as trying to play like he does. Basically, Shahid Bolson from Middle Nation and play this good cop, bad cop argument when it comes to comparing Arabians to Europeans. Both of you got blood, guts, and grape and slavery and pillage on your hands. and from thousands of years. The Arabians were the first to do it. They were the first to enslave other tribes and other, kingdoms in Africa and wherever they went. They were one of the most successful at actually doing it. So much so that the Europeans copied their playbook pretty much. And it really pretty much is to this day trying to beat them at their own game. For the most part, you could say the Europeans, for the most part, have beat them at their own game to a certain extent. But their timeline and conquest is coming to a crumbling end as well. And the Arabians are, plentiful in number and stronger to a certain extent in many areas, such as Dubai with their oil wealth and the Saudis with their oil wealth. But they didn't originate from the Arabian, did not originate from Saudi Arabia. All of those areas in the Middle East, the original inhabitants, the historical inhabitants were not Arabians. Okay. That's why, you gotta, it takes a little bit more historical research to do to actually crack the Arabian, historical conquest in their timeline, because it goes back farther. But a person like myself, I can't really take this dude 100% serious, because when you play the whole good cop versus bad cop with the narrative of the Arabs are good cops and the Europeans are bad cops, I can't fall for it because I know history. And pretty much I'm part African. So I know the history. Okay. Now the fact that I even got to point out that I'm part African is even crazy, because it's a narrative and a psyop in America, mainly fueled by social media and different content, that Black people are trying to push themselves away from actually being African, which is the power. It's a power in actually connecting to the idea and the roots of actually being African, because basically that's what the Americans do. They are connected to the hip with Europeans. They don't delineate from Europeans in Europe. They're white Americans do not delineate the Europeans. That's their power base. And they trade trillions of dollars every day with Europeans in America and Europeans across the fucking globe, mainly the former UK empires and different parts of Europe. They all are unified and they all help each other. And that's one of their biggest power sources. But you have gullible, sheeple Black people that don't want to identify or don't even want to connect to Africa, and then wonder why they don't have any money, and then turn around and support foreigners, mainly Arabians and Indians, in their neighborhoods to buy goods from them that they could open up a store and buy and sell the same goods. It's not like these people are, I get the whole gas station thing is kind of complicated, but a corner store is not complicated. The video, the short I did, it went kind of, it got some numbers. I didn't think it was going to take off as much, but people are making a bunch of comments in this video short about foreigners, in these ghettos getting rich off of Black people. They were saying that these people get a loan, like that. Like it costs so much. People think it costs so much to open up a store. It doesn't even cost that much to open up a corner store. I'm gonna tell you something. I started a computer store. It was way more complicated to start the computer store than a freaking convenience store. Okay, I had to buy computers. And really, to be honest, I was supposed to buy brand new computers because that was what my license was for. I didn't have enough money to pay for the license to get to sell used computers. And then it was something where I think I needed a background check and like supply my thumbprint and all the kind of crazy stuff, because basically it was going to be a secondhand electronics store. It costs over $1,000 to get that license. And I just basically pretended like I was selling used new computers, but I didn't have enough money to buy new computers. Just imagine, okay, how expensive. And then I'm gonna tell you, to start my computer store, it took like less than a couple grand. Okay, think about this. What's more complicated, buying computers and electronic parts and computer parts and shit, or fucking chips, soda, and juice and candy? What you think is more easier? Exactly. Buying chips and candies and cookies and all of that is a lot more. It's a lot easier to do that. You might need grocery licenses and stuff like that, but not really, because unless you only thing you need, like probably a grocery license. Uh, if you might need a grocery license, but it's not that complicated to get a grocery license, because basically, as long as you don't have like produce and all of that stuff, that's a lot more complicated. I'm just talking about a store with like packaged goods, packaged chips, candy, sodas, juices, and all that. They don't cost that much. A lot of people don't know because they never open a business. They think, like, people think that to open a storefront and get a business going, you need a loan and you need a whole bunch of money. No, you don't. You could start a small little convenience store, a corner store for less than 5 grand, 10 grand for sure. You can get that from a tax return. So I digress into all of that, but I'm basically saying, you guys, yeah, you pretty much delineate your power base, which is your ancestral homeland, and the people that live there, which is Africans, and you wonder why you don't compete really well with Europeans and American Europeans. You don't compete well with them because they're doing, all you got to do is look at, and I've said this many times on this channel, all you got to do is look at what other people are doing and look at what you're doing. And 9 times out of 10, if you do the homework and actually do that, you can see where you're ass backwards and everybody else is not ass backwards. Well, the whole delineating Africans and talking about you're not African is the ass backwards part, to where you need to do some head work, need to do some brain work and figure that out, because that's ass backwards. You look at everybody else, their power source, they work from their power base, and then they come to America, and then they work within that same power base. You don't, black man and woman in America that's confused and not connected to Africa, and that's why you're having the problems. And then a lot of times what black people do, because they don't compete really well with white folks and others, like Arabs and Jews and other people that from other countries, they try to exalt them as if they're so highly, like they're just so precious and highly sought after, to where it's almost like a worshiping of these people. and they want to, have relations with these people and treat them so high above them, and how they treat other people, because you have it's a complex. It's a self-hating complex, as well as a inferiority complex. And I've talked about that inferiority complex many of times. But yeah, like, that doesn't work on me because I know history. I know the Egyptians was, part of Africa, and they're, were ancient black people. I know West African history, East African history, and I know Arabians were invaders of Africa. It's just like the Europeans were. And, this dude, again, Middle Nation Shaheed Bolson, plays this good cop, bad cop type of structure when he talks about Arabs versus Europeans. And I'm like, dude, that ain't gonna work on me. I know, like, because he was basically talking about, because Jordan Peterson was saying that the Saudis don't deserve the oil, and he was saying, Shahid was saying that this oil was our birthright. And I'm like, nigga, do you know, like, do you know exactly what you're saying? Like as if Arabians just, they were in Arabia for tens of thousands of years, and they just inhabited Arabia, and that was it. Like, there was no Axum Empire from out of Ethiopia that was, in all of those lands. And that's why, if you notice, a lot of the Ethiopians, Eritreans, and Somalians, they talk with an Arabian accent because they had to fight the Arabians. Basically, a lot of them were enslaved by the Arabians. The East Africans, a lot of them were enslaved by the Arabians. They were, they mixed in with the Arabians as well. They were the predecessors of the Arabians, of that, the Arabians, again, that came down from Eurasia down to Africa to the Middle East. That is history. I'm not making this up. A lot of black people don't know history because they just, a lot of people don't read books and do research. But I'm not that. I'm not the one. Okay. I'm not that dude. I know a lot about history, ancient history, and you can't fool me like that. Talking about, oh yeah, this is my aunt, this is, we inherited that oil and all. No, you inherited that oil from conquest, from basically taking over the Axum Empire and pushing out the East Africans. That's how you got Saudi Arabia. That's how you got the Persian Gulf. That's how you got all of that area, that Arabian Peninsula. It was not the Arabian Peninsula 5,000 years ago, not even 2,000 years ago. And you didn't inherit that. Your ancestors fought the Ethiopians and took over that area. And it's like, yeah, you can fool somebody else, but you ain't gonna fool me. And there's many people that are like me that have advanced knowledge of history, that know about that history, as well as Ethiopians and Somalians and Eritreans. Okay, they know that history as well. You're not gonna fool them. You know, Sudanese people. That is, they're, basically the Horn of Africa. They stretched out from the Horn of Africa and went all throughout the Middle East and all of that. And that was where, those were their that was their empire before the Arabians fought and conquested and ran them away. Now, basically they just use them for, like, basically slave labor. and originally slaves and mixed in and made darker Arabs and all of that. But again, you're not gonna fool me, buddy. I mean, you might fool 70 to 80 to 90% of individuals, maybe even 95, but you're not gonna fool me, buddy. I know history. You know what I'm saying? I know the history, and I know exactly to the letter to the T how the Arabians got into Middle East, to the Middle East and to Africa. And I mean, a lot of other people know and should know as well. Like, none of these people are your friends, and they have proven not to be your friend for thousands and thousands of years. Arabs, for sure, for a longer period of time, longer than the Europeans, have proven not to be your friends. Okay. They took over, they made people Muslims by the sword, by blood and death and conquest. And they all of the religions came from basically Egypt and Israel and the story of the ancient Hebrews and coming out of Egypt. All of the religions come from that. That is the source of all religions, from basically the pharaohs and the Pharisees of ancient Egypt. That's where all religions came from. That's why I'm not religious. That is my religion. Okay. I mean, the religion of the pharaohs, that's my religion. All of the pictures and the sculptings inside the pyramid show the prayers. The reason why people say amen, amen is a Egyptian god, Amen Ra. That's why all religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, after everyone say their prayer, they say amen, not even knowing they actually praying to the Egyptian god Amen Ra. That's why I'm not religious anymore. Now, I mean, that's another story for another day, but I know my history. History is good as gold. That's why one of the reasons why I'm so intelligent, because I know fucking history. One of the reasons why I do okay in stocks, because I look at the chart history. History is very fucking important. But this dude Shahid Bolson from Middle Nation, he pretends like these Arabs are just so angelical, like they just landed inside Africa on just the lap of Africa, and they just came in on some friendly shit. Like they just existed one day, and then they were here. Like that's not how that went, and that's not how the Europeans took over the basically the global South as well. None of them are fucking good cops or whatever. They all bad cops. You know what I'm saying? That I pray to the heavens above that they will be dealt with. To be honest, I mean, like, I think it's really like you seeing things working themselves out. It's like history repeating itself, and it's going to be probably a longer period to deal with the whole Arabian population in Africa and all of that. They're going to be probably around for a long time, probably longer than the Europeans. But I mean, it's things are playing themselves out. Historically, I see things kind of playing themselves out, but you can't fool me though. Like I said again, like, you might be able to fool the average person She's not gonna fool me. I know my history, and I mean, I think the dude is smart. I think the dude, he has some good valid points on a lot of his videos. I mean, Jordan Peterson, I'm not really I think Jordan Peterson is a smart dude, but yeah, Jordan Peterson probably most likely is a typical European, okay, from Canada, but typically he's team European. So yeah, he's gonna probably have some European talking points, some Nick Fuentes talking points or whatever. I mean, that's not surprising to me. You know, they, they do try to push certain narratives and everything like that, and everybody, for everybody to follow, to pretend like everybody else is angelic. I mean, like they're angelic and everybody else, this small portion of people are evil. They do that to black people. They make black people seem like they just, these just horrible people, and people fall for it. And then, the next day they shooting up a church, shooting up a playground, running people over on the street with cars, like, molesting children every single day, like raping children, raping babies. Like, I mean, it's all kinds of debauchery that they do on a day-to-day basis that they've been doing, and it's like the whole narrative is they try to push it like, black people are just these awful people that just, need to be dealt with. But that's what they do, man. I'm used to it. And I'm not the only one that's used to it. But to be like, Arabians are these angelic beings that are above Europeans. I mean, to a certain extent, do I think all Arabians are awful people? Do I think Europeans all are awful people? No, I don't. But I mean, as a group, shit, you guys are fucking the worst pirates that ever sprung forth, the worst barbarians that ever sprung forth, for sure. Historically, currently, I mean, without history, you wouldn't know that. The average person does not read, so they don't know shit. That's why, that's what the Nation Islam, they used to call people on the street. They used to call them the Walking Dead, the deaf, dumb, and blind. Because a lot of people, that's the way they act. The deaf, dumb, and blind. They deaf, they can't hear nothing. They can't see anything, and they're dumb because they don't try to read and don't try to get, like, you can actually get smart. Like, it's an actual fucking TV show called Get Smart. Like, you could literally, like, if you're like the dumbest person on planet Earth, you can be the smartest person in about 5 to 10 years by reading, by actually, if learning, using your brain, clearing out becoming more healthy. Like, a lot of people have parasites in their body. You got worms inside your body, different parasites, cleaning, detoxifying your body, and fasting, getting rid of parasites. You got people, if you got parasites in your body, you don't notice, but you also possibly have parasites in your brain. The parasites go inside your brain too. So a lot of people are deaf, dumb, and blind. They can't learn anything. They can't see anything. They can't read anything. Can't hear anything. And it's, you got a lot of problems. And I'm one of those that I carry a certain light. I carry a little torch to try to, wake some whoever can be woken up that can hear my words. But I mean, it's only so much I could do through a fucking YouTube channel. I mean, I don't really get views like that, but I mean, I got I don't know, like I mean, I don't know. I got a lot of subscribers all of a sudden. I've been making a lot of shorts about basically just I don't know. It's the makeup lady. I mean, the makeup lady or the filter lady, man. For whatever reason, like people really like that video, and magically, I just got a whole bunch of subscribers. Now I'm at like 9,000 subscribers, and this is a financial channel. I mean, that was just like a funny video because I do just like other black people. I rely on comedy. Like a lot of black people, our power is comedy. Just like the Jews, similarly, because the Jews, they went through a lot of stuff with Nazi Germany and all of that, Holocaust and whatnot. Like that, they have they have comedy as a relief to the hardships that they went through, right? Well, black people are some of the funniest people on in America because we've had a hard life in America. We had a lot of hardships that we had to overcome and still have to. And comedy is a relief. A lot of this shit really is funny, to be honest. I mean, I find a lot of these things comical. How white people act, and you know, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, how things are even, like I ain't gonna lie, I find it comical as hell when when a white woman, she posts that she's pregnant with a black man's baby on Twitter, and then all of a sudden, like all of these Twitter posts and comments from these, like, white nationalists, thinking or leaning people, and talk about your evolution or genetics is going to be wiped away. I mean, I do find that comical. I find that very, very comical, and I find it comical because it's nothing they could do. Like, to be honest, like the reason why they don't like that, they don't like the idea. It's no problem when it comes to a black woman getting with a white man, but for whatever reason, and I know why it is, like why white guys don't like it when black dudes get with white women, because basically they for the longest time in America, they couldn't they had pretty much they had white women on lock. You couldn't get with a white woman. If you were a black man and you got with a white woman, like pre 1960, I would say 60 to going back farther as you can go back, you could be lynched if you was with a white woman. Her life is in jeopardy, and yours would be in jeopardy for getting with a white woman. Can't do nothing about it now. I mean, you could, but it would be ridiculous because it's it's the future. People can get whoever they want to. Shit, you got lesbianism now that's widespread. People are got gay couples, gay pride festivals. Men could get with men. There's no problem. Women could get with women. So you telling me you got a problem with, in 2025, you got a problem with black men getting with white women when women get with women and men get with men? It's like, it's funny to me because, one, again, like I said, it's funny the idea of it. Then two, it's like, it's funny to see white dudes can't do shit about it. And I know they could, uh generations ago, they could absolutely do something about it, but they can't do anything about it. And it's like, you got to rely on, basically evolution in nature. A lot of white women do like black men. And it could be just a natural attraction. It could be whatever. You know, they like if they like whatever they like, they can get. Which normally that's how that really works anyway. But um, I mean, you got to compete. And it's like, well, um, it may the best man win. And it's like, it's no big deal to me because I don't exalt white women. Like, I'm not one of those black dudes that exalt white women or any other women. I mean, I like Indian women, but you know, it's they're some of the most racist people uh in the world. Indians are, if you look at the chart of the most racist people in the world, Indians are like number one. And then Arabians are very racist and tribal too. So it's like, okay, you got to get through all of that tribalism and racism to even try to even date an Indian woman or Arabian woman, because they're so tribal and racist. So I mean, I'm just not into exalting anyone, to be honest, and I just don't do that. But it still it's funny. It is funny. I mean, it is hilarious. I mean, I find it funny. I mean, because I mean, it's just it's like just all of the things that happened before, and then just now you seeing, you seeing like I mean, it just yeah, it's just a funny thing, man. I don't know. It's just a funny thing. I think I lost like two white people that was watching me because they was rocking with me for a bit. Then I started talking about white women and black dudes, and then they just fell off. But anyway, man, it is a comedy to a lot of this shit, how people act and what people do and all of that. I mean, it's serious too, but it's like, yeah, it's like people trying to do whatever they can to remain powerful, to remain power, to keep power. And it's like, it's like they just doing all kind of sci-fi ass shit. It is tripped out. It's very interesting. I still find a way to laugh, from time to time. So think I need to laugh more, but at the same time, I mean, like I said, I understand history. Um, I understand. Even I was watching something about, this dude Frank Zano. He's getting, he's people are playing his videos and they're starting to talk about him. He's actually from where my father's from Ghana, and he talks about different things about blacks in America and their cultural values and cultural decisions, or even he claims that black people don't have a culture. I don't believe that black people do not have a culture. I think black people pretty much have a lot of cultural values in America, and have even um spread it, black culture, to America, and even run the culture in America. When you talk about music, dance, even certain cultural foods, because culture is food, culture is music, traditions, um all kinds of things, like even inventions. A lot of black people have created like all kinds of things. Even that's funny when I be like, oh, low IQ. Yeah, that runs on the deaf, dumb, and blind. I'm not deaf, dumb, and blind. Like, I know, I mean, like the inventions that black people have invented for the last 200 years is crazy, yo. Like, I mean, a lot of times what people do, and people just generally do this. This is just what people do. It's like people point the finger, and when you point the finger, three fingers are pointing back at you. So a lot of times when people say things like low IQ, they really telling on themselves, because it's nothing. If you look at the inventors, the list of black inventors for the last 200 years in America, and even if you look at worldwide, like the hair comb, if you didn't have black people inventing things, basically everyone would be living in the Stone Age. They wouldn't have combs, they wouldn't have shoes, they wouldn't have sandals, they wouldn't know how to make bread, they wouldn't know how to, they wouldn't have no refrigeration. You know how many people would be dying from no AC? Black people literally so hot they invented AC. Like, I mean, the steam engines. I mean, the modern automobile, the first automobile was created by a black man. Um, it was a lot of inventions that were stolen from black people because black people have a very highly intelligent mind. I mean, we like literally um like the perfect human. Like I mean, like they say cats are like the perfect creatures. Like we not we just as strong as we are. We have the ability. I'm not saying all of us. We have the ability to be highly intelligent as well as strong. Like it's black people. A lot of black people are like dual threats or triple threats. They have high intelligence. I'm one of those. Have high intelligence and physically strong, and might have a big dick. BBC. uh, uh, man, I remember that country singer. She said something. She said, what she say? Uh, she said BBC, are you with me or something shit. She literally was singing about BBC on stage. It was like it went viral and shit like that. But it's like, man, I mean, I'm talking shit, but I'm really, to be honest, I'm being absolutely real. Like, I don't even believe in the whole racial thing. I think everybody just racially are connected through DNA. Like, we all can have babies with each other, so therefore we all are able to be um you know copulate with each other. So we all part of um uh, kind of a human species. But I do believe that there are subspecies of the human species. That's where you have all of these different genetic traits and different types of people, as far as shades and hues of people. But I'm not even into the whole racial dichotomy thing. I'm not racist. I can't, I won't allow myself to be racist. I used to be on that racial shit, but I don't really heavily involve myself into racial politics and identity politics. I just don't do that. Now I know the history of cultural conquest and the movements of people and all of that worldwide, but I don't involve myself in the whole racial stuff because it's really goofy, to be honest. Because I mean, even America, it really gets really goofy because when you do have if you do have a baby with a white woman, the baby's still black. So how can a white woman create a black baby and not be black? That's the question I ask a lot of people. When I ask people that question, their eyes, and I'm talking about black people, I'm talking about white people, I ask them this question and their eyes just light up because you don't never think about that shit. Like, hey, that's how goofy the fucking idea of race and identity and all of that shit is. So goofy because it's like, okay, well, how is this white woman creating a black baby and not be black? If that's if it's just goofy, because I'm not even gonna break that down. But it's just stupid. But anyway, man, I'm like all over the place. But I just had to come on here because you know Arabians do act like they just innocent, and because they're very old people. Their history is a lot older than the Europeans. So they just think like nobody took history 103 or advanced history and know about them. Like, it is people that know about Arabian history. I'm one of those. And it's like, yeah, like, you could be quiet and you know calculated and all of that shit, thinking that and I understand, when I understand a little bit of Arabic as well. You know, my father, my mother, they were Muslims and stuff. We grew up in a Muslim household and stuff, but it's like, man, I know the history. Like, not gonna fool me. I mean, I'm not. You ain't gonna fool me, buddy. Like, I know the history. I know what you're doing now. I know what you're doing in Arabia. I've seen the videos online. You know, you beating the house sitter, taking the passport. You know, because a lot of people in Africa they go to Arabia because they got a lot of money, like in Dubai and Saudi Arabia and different parts of Arabia. You know, Bahrain. They got a lot of oil money, so they go over there to work and they treat them. You know, I'm not saying all of them, but quite a few of them treat these black house servants and shit like shit. They be beating them, taking their passports and all that type of shit. I know what's going on. I seen the slave, I seen the slave you know, prisons in Libya. You know, I know what the fuck is going on. You know what I'm saying? You ain't fooling me, buddy. You know, I know what's going on. You know, and I knew what happened. You know, like I said, thousands of years ago. I know how you ended up in Arabia. I know how you ended up in North Africa. You know what I'm saying? I know why you talking about you know what I'm saying? You're the you're the ancient Egyptians. I know about it. It's just the same shit that the Europeans be saying because at one time they fought the Arabians and took over Egypt. The historical narrative is pushed by uh, those that have took over and conquested certain parts of the world. If somebody comes in and then they want to rewrite history. It happens, it's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. It's nothing new under the sun.